Hey, what's
Hi,
up?
hello. Is this Samuel?
Yes, it's Samuel.
Hey, Samuel. This is Tommy Bryson. This call may be recorded and potentially uploaded. How can I help you?
I want to discuss about certain finances and
Okay.
financial goals I was trying to get to. So I live in New York. I'm still attending school, but it became on and off because of COVID.
Okay.
So I wanted to know, like, do you think it's better to just continue to live in New York and just finish get my bachelor's, or just to leave New York and find a cheaper, more affordable place? Because I right now I'm at, like, Dave baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm at like step 3 or 2 now. I finally paid off my debt. No
Okay.
more debts. So I'm just wondering about that, and like with stocks, because I have some money invested in stocks, but because I was in debt, that had to get paused, and I froze everything I did.
Okay. So if you're following Dave's plan, then you're not supposed to even be picking individual stocks either.
No, I didn't pick. Well, I didn't pick. No, let me rephrase that. I picked a few, like three individual stocks. They were
Yeah.
penny stocks,
Which
and
you're not supposed to do.
no. This is before I found out about Dave Ramsey. I already still had them.
Okay.
So
Okay. So
the
it
rest were
sounds
index funds.
okay. So it sounds like to me, you started following Dave's plan, which is fine, and now since you're debt free, now you're wondering what should my next step actually be? Do I want to stay in
Yeah,
this state or do I want to move somewhere else that's actually cheaper? Sounds right?
yeah. Because well, I want to finish school. I'm about to finish school with my bachelor's,
Bachelor's in what?
computer science.
Computer. Okay, awesome. It's a great degree. Do you have any job prospects currently?
Right now, I'm working in a field that's not related to my actual field of choice. I'm working in the
Mm-hmm.
health field. So I'm just trying to pick up certs right now with the money and just finish paying off school.
How much money do you owe in school? Or are you trying to pay off school while you're going to
No, no,
school?
I'm trying to pay off school while I'm going to school.
Okay,
No debt,
awesome.
no
O-
loans.
Okay, awesome. So, all right. So let's say for how long until you graduate?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. A year and a half. And what's your current living situation? Who do you live with?
I live with my folks.
Okay. So your rent is basically non-existent, or do you help them out?
I don't pay rent, but I pay for water, electricity, and the cell phone bill.
Okay. Okay. All right. So my advice usually comes, for example, from what would I do if I were in your shoes right now? The first thing is I would just take things just step by step, which basically means my main focus right now is on graduating, right? You still have a whole year and a half left. So
Yeah,
if you're gonna be doing that, what's the point of thinking about basically moving out if that's not gonna happen right now? And still right now, your current living situation is not that bad because you live with your parents, so there's no real crazy cost to you staying in New York a little bit longer. However, if you felt like I don't want to be here whatsoever, there's always the idea that if you want to switch states, you could just basically pick up and go and just basically transfer your credits to somewhere else. That's also a possibility. But then you give up the job that you actually have right now that's helping you pay for school so you can actually graduate 100% debt free. Does that make sense?
yeah,
And a big thing is that, as you know, New York is expensive, but New York usually you get paid more money, especially for like software engineer and all that stuff or computer
yeah,
science. So there's also like understanding that okay, so when I do switch states, understand that the companies gonna hire you are gonna pay you based on states you actually live. So that's also very important. But that
mm,
shouldn't stop you from trying to go ahead and basically move states if you just don't want to be there. Because eventually, when it does come to the baby steps, for example, Dave's plan, you eventually want to start investing, eventually want to start saving up for a home and all this stuff. And when you do get to that point, buying a $400,000 single family home or $500,000 single family home is going to be ridiculous, especially trying to make that fit in the whole like 15-year mortgage and only 25% of your income.
yeah.
Right? So I do understand you moving out and all this stuff like to another state, but that's another problem for another day, though. So
Okay.
my main focus right now would just be if I'm you, because I have my own steps, is the 4 steps, kind of similar to Dave's plan, but just like a lot more optimized. And the whole idea
Mm,
is the first thing is you follow a bare knuckle budget or bare bone budget, meaning just take care of the 4 things, which is shelter, utilities, groceries, and also transportation, right? So you have a very
okay.
minimal budget. So the rest of the money, you can basically use it in this case, because my first step is also become debt free, but using the avalanche method. The second step is to go ahead and basically save for 3 to 6 months worth of emergencies. So once you have that 3 months in there, you can start focusing on, hey, I'm going to use all this money to try to basically graduate 100% debt free. And that way you're good to go. But that way, in case anything does go wrong in your plan, or you lose your job or anything crazy like that happens, you have like a little cushion there to kind of manage your expenses with that 3-month emergency account. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the third step would just be you start investing, for example, into your retirement accounts between 10 to 20% while you're saving up for a down payment on a home. Now, my math is a little bit more different than Dave Ramsey's math, right? My math is when you're going to buy a home, the home cannot exceed 33% of your monthly income, including all of the expenses of the home on a 15-year mortgage. That means, for example, you have the mortgage, potentially PMI insurance, regular insurance also, the taxes, the maintenance, everything included cannot exceed 33% of your monthly income on a 15-year mortgage. So it gives you like a little bit more wiggle room, but in reality, not really, because I'm including everything else in there while you're also investing, of course. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but you're on track, man. You're doing. You have an emergency account yet, by the way?
Yeah, I started it. I have $5,000 in, but before I actually started investing, I put a lot into my 401k, and so now I feel like I just started it back up, but I think I should stop that because I have like the 401k, because I have like $50,000 in it already under 2 years.
How old are you?
I am 26.
Awesome. Yeah, you're doing well, man. So, okay. So you're still doing the 401k thing. You have $5,000 in emergency account. How much is that worth of monthly expenses? Is it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months?
It's around 3-4 months.
Okay. Get it to around 3 months, right? Once you have that in there, focus on just paying for school. If you want to start investing with the rest of the money that's left over, you can if you want to. That's fine. So I would get the max with my 401k. If they have a Roth 401k available, do that instead, because that way that money is going to be 100% yours in the future. The leftover, you can just go ahead and put it into your Roth IRA. Because eventually, once you have a Roth IRA?
I just started that. I haven't actually put any money in it.
Yeah, because here's a theory, right? That eventually, when you do leave this company, because it's not even in your field, so you're going to eventually be leaving it. So once you do leave that company, you can just do a rollover. If it's a 401k, you'll have to do, for example, roll it over into a traditional IRA. So there's no tax or anything like that crazy. But then you want to go from traditional IRA and roll it over into your Roth IRA. You'll pay tax then on the gains and so on. But that way, at least you can have that money just in the Roth IRA and start the whole clock. Because once it's in the Roth IRA, you won't be able to take it out for at least 5 years. Your contributions. Yeah. So that's why I will open up a Roth IRA now. Just do the match with the company and just start investing in. What are you invested into, by the way?
I put it into growth.
What else?
Growth stock. That was pretty much it.
Oh, wow. That's very aggressive. So even because I know my plan and I also know Dave's plan, it's one of the ways I can improve, because I know what my competitors actually do. Even in his plan, he has like 4 things, right? He has growth stocks. I think he has mid caps. He also has international. And then he has, I forgot what the 4th one is, but I know he has 4 categories that you want to be investing into. And the reason is because basically you want to be diversified. So if anything does happen, that way you're good to go. In my investment plan, you have around 6 to 7 different index funds. You have, for example, the S&P 500. So that way you have, for example, covered the US market. You also have the small cap market, the international market. You also have some bonds in there, both treasury bonds and also corporate bonds. You also have some real estate, and then you also have some emerging stocks. But this way, for example, you're covered on all fronts, because you're 26 now, but you're going to be investing for the next 10 to 20, 30 years. So it's important that you're not so heavy, for example, just on the US or the international, or, for example, tech, whatever it is, because at some point during the market cycle, you don't know what's going to happen. During certain years, America's not going to do that great comparatively to, for example, international companies and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's important you get that more diversified, honestly. If you want to copy exactly how I invest in all of my videos, there is a link to M1 Finance, and it shows you exactly what I invest into. Those are the ETFs of them, but if you want to use that, for example, on Vanguard, you just ask Vanguard, hey, can I get the index fund format of these ETFs? And they'll tell you, yeah, you can, and they'll give it to you also.
All right.
Okay, Samuel?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for right now, you're doing great. You're doing solid. Just don't sabotage yourself, right? So don't try to make it too fancy, or overthink things that are just not gonna happen right now. Just keep pushing on this whole debt thing with your college, so that we can graduate debt free. And then when that time comes, you decide like, hey, I've been investing for a while. I have X amount of money invested, and you can say, well, am I investing? And I'm also, for example, trying to save some money for the home I want to buy. The answer is maybe not, because when you think about it, put it into perspective, right? You're 26 now. You'll be 27 and a half or 28 by the time you actually graduate, right?
I'll be 27 this October.
Oh, so you'll be like, you'll be closer to 29 most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're 29. You're about to move states. You're not going to buy a property in the first 1 to 2 years, because you got to know exactly what you actually like, where you want to live, and so on, right? Because it makes no sense. So you'll have that period of that 2-year mark to just start saving up like crazy for buying a home. But by that point, you don't have any money going towards your student loan, not student loan, but your college payments, right?
Yeah.
So all that extra money and also your increase in income can just be used towards saving up for a home. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So just be patient. You're pretty much almost there, and it's exciting, man. You excited?
Not really. I feel like I should have did this a while ago, but
You're 26 years old, bro. What while ago? That's crazy.
Like around 24, 25.
Sheesh,
so
man.
I feel like I'm behind.
You're not behind.
Me and my friend are both behind, but he's already got his good paying job, and he's got he's got his certification, so he's already rushing to finish as fast as possible.
How are your parents doing?
What do you mean, financially?
Yeah.
Oh, my mom works for the state. My dad also works for the state, but as a nurse.
Do they have the same theory on debt and investing as you do, or no?
No.
Yeah. So your real competition per se is gonna be yourself. Don't compare yourself to your friend. It's good to have like people and comrades that are with you on the same mission, but don't compare it to yourself that format, because when you look at your parents and also their friends and all this stuff, you are way ahead, and anyone else would tell you that. So perspective, I'm doing the same thing currently. Right now, I switched states, so now I live in Puerto Rico. Not state, because it's not a state, it's a territory. So now I live in Puerto Rico. I'm renting for the first 1 to 2 years, and then I have the cash. So when the time comes to buy a home, I can do that, right? But you have to be patient. That's all it is. And my only competition is myself. Right now, you're on your own journey, right? Your friend's doing great. You're 26 years old. You'll be 29. And if you do everything correctly, if you buy a home, for example, with my math and how I do things, you'll be done with it like in 8 to 10 years. So 8-10 years, now you're what? Like, let's just say like 36. You have a fully paid off home, a lot of money in your investment account, a fully funded emergency account, and a whole bunch of just discretionary income to do whatever you want with. And you're only 30, 36, 38. The average person by 65 years old only has around like 40 to 60K for retirement funds.
Yeah, it's a sad truth.
Yeah. So you're doing fine. The only thing is I'd probably just tell you like when start talking to your parents about this stuff. I'm pretty sure you probably have already, right? You probably try to like convince them or something.
No, they are, I should say, old world. So my parents
they're what?
They're old world. So like some of their thoughts, the way they think is like, no, you work, get your money, and then you save up for life. That's it. They make 6 figures, both of them. So that also adds to it. For them, they're not usually going to listen to me when I bring up certain conversations, especially with finances and life.
Once you're 26 years old, Samuel, and it's kind of like having someone. Okay, why do you call me? Because you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you didn't know that I know what I'm talking about, you probably wouldn't trust a word I'm saying. So once you have something to show for it, like, hey, mom, dad, I graduated, I have X amount of money invested, I've been doing this and that, it's been working great for me. Eventually, people catch on, right? So you're not gonna force or change anybody's mind, but it's just trying to plant that seed, saying like, hey, this is a different way. If you're interested, I'm available, I can help. Just like planting that seed there. That's that. You're not. You know, even Jesus couldn't change everybody's mind, right? So
yeah, that's a fact.
You're not gonna be able to do that, okay?
Yeah.
All right, brother. Any more questions, or you're solid?
The rest of them would have been about stocks, but like you said, I shouldn't be. Well, let me pull up my what's it, Fidelity? No, not Fidelity. I got recommendations for stocks, but I'm not too well versed in picking stocks for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I have where is it? Webull. I have it on Webull. Like right now I have FTech, Nano Dimensions, FTech. It's an index. I believe it's an index fund. It's a technology index fund.
Okay.
I have FTech, MFA, Airbnb, Nano Dimensions, Aqua Bounty.
Okay.
So
now, here's the way I would break this down, right? And this is not my idea. This is Charlie Munger's idea, right? By the way, Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's right hand, and he has a very scientific way to look at, for example, investing. As you know, you work in the healthcare stuff right now currently, so you're pretty versed in this a little bit also. But everything in the world has cycles, right? Humans have cycles. Right. We have very successful parts, then we have lows, we got highs, all that stuff. Same thing with business. They have a lot of cycles. They have lucrative parts, like right now the tech industry is booming. In 2000 it was the dot-coms, you had the railroads, all that stuff before that. There's always something happening, right? There's always a cycle. Now, what you're doing is you're picking a company. In this case, you don't really know what you're doing because you admitted that. But remember, right, when you have a company that you're picking, no matter if it's Apple or Airbnb, they might be, for example, the top competitor up there, but business is so cruel that there's always other competition. There's always somebody else trying to come for their heads or whatever. So you got to be careful, because what your plan is financial freedom. And financial freedom is all about long term. That's why I call my team long-term team. So in the long term, what are the odds that the company that you're going to pick is going to be around to actually outlive you? You know, because you're talking about 10, 20, 30 years. And that's why when Warren Buffett invests, he invests around companies that have this very large moat, right? Where they have a large protection across all markets, like Coca-Cola, right? You can't really recreate that company. So whenever, and by the way, he spends hours and hours and hours. That's why you can't really be a part-time investor. That's why even Dave Ramsey, and even I also, we don't go ahead and try to pick stocks. That's like a full-time job. That takes hours and hours and hours. So that's why usually, and by the way, I wouldn't even recommend like niching down that heavy, for example, just in technology stocks and like the technology index funds, saying like, I'm going to invest into this because it's in the tech industry, it's growing right now. But what happens when we have another shift? Again, we're talking about cycles of your life, which is 10, 20, 30 years. Is that still going to be the next hot thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's why my investment strategy, and by the way, it's not my investment strategy, it's the strategy I got from someone that is 10 times smarter than I am and got like a whole Nobel Prize and stuff like that from that portfolio. It's modern portfolio theory. The idea is you want to be basically covered from all sides. If you have the S&P 500, what do you have? The 500 largest companies. Now, no matter the time or whatever it is, the 500 largest are going to be the biggest, right? So if in the next 10 years, that is tech, you're going to have some tech in there. If it's going to be the car industry, you're going to have some of that. If it's going to be like a brand new industry we don't know about, you're also going to have it in there, right? So there's always going to be shifting. So you're always going to be a part of what the next big thing is. So that's always going to be a part of you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then when you have the international stock market in your index fund or ETF, that means that although America is great today, America wasn't always the biggest and best country in the whole world or whatever, right? You had other countries that can do better. China right now is making a lot of leaps and bounds, right? So having a piece of that is very important, because again, you're not trying to pick favorites here. You're trying to create a portfolio where you are going to be fine, not the 26-year-old version of you or 28 when you graduate, but the 40, 50, 60-year-old you. That's the goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's all it is. So that's why I say you want to pick index funds, and not just, for example, into little niches of like technology or in the healthcare facility or in the hotel. No, it's more about having a category to have all the assets of the markets, the big parts, wrapped around, so that way you're taking care and you get a piece of everything that's important. Okay?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So if I had, for example, the investments that you have, my question would just be, am I going to do this full time? If the answer is no, I'm selling. Because a part of being an investor is, I'll tell you an example. In March of 2020, I bought into some airline stocks, right? And I made around 128% on my money, which is great. But then I had the option, do I hold or do I sell? Because you're making money, and when you make money, there's just this idea in your head. You think, oh, I must be an expert because I'm making money right now. But the answer is that's not true. If you can't really pin down to why this stock is going up and how the industry actually works and what our profit margins actually are, if you're not reading, for example, the 10K forums or the 10Q forums, if you're not learning about its competition and everything that's actually going on, in reality, you're probably just getting lucky. So there's a maintenance when you're buying a stock, because you're not just buying and holding forever. You're buying, and every 18 months you have to go back and see, like, okay, does the reason I bought the stock initially, does it still stand? If the answer is no, you sell, obviously. But if you don't know why you're bought in the first place, and you don't know how to maintain a stock or anything like that, you sell.
Yeah.
You sell, you cut your losses, or you basically profit. You use that money to, like, obviously keep some money for your taxes because that's important. But the rest of the money, you can say, I'm going to use this money to put it either to build my emergency account or to put it, for example, into my investment account. But invest into things that I actually understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there books you'd recommend I could read for this?
Yeah, you can read the little book about common sense investing by John C. Bogle. It's a great book. And you can also read A Random Walk Down Wall Street. I think the guy that wrote that book is a chair over at Wealthfront Investment. He does great work. Okay.
A Random Walk Down Wall Street.
Yeah, it's a great book.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Okay. Welcome to the long-term team. And pretty soon, man, we're gonna have competition with Dave Ramsey after I start making my courses and so on. So look out for that.
All right. All
right, man. Good luck. Have fun.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Bye.
By the way, okay. All right, guys. So that right there was Ashley Samuel. Guys following the Dave Ramsey team. That's awesome. That's fine, because I don't really care who you follow. I care about the results you actually get. So my whole perspective is that a lot of the times when you're getting closer and closer and closer and closer, you tend to either compare yourself to the people or try to optimize what you're doing. But a lot of times you're doing things the correct way. And the only thing actually missing is called patience, right? Patience, really, just patience. So in this case, 26-year-old is doing things correctly, but might want to dabble into, for example, like picking stocks and so on. Just don't do it. If you want to do it though, follow the 90-10 rule. Basically means 90% of your money, things you understand. The other 10% into that little things that you don't understand, but you just want to gamble some money, go ahead and do that. That's going to be fine. But this way you won't go broke if you do lose all of your money. That's the concept. That's the idea. Okay. And by the way, Dave Ramsey steps, they work. Okay. My steps, the 4-step plan that I created is just more like a lot more optimized and just a lot more like percentage wise and so on. It's like a lot more detailed and so on. However, Dave's plan works and it's been working for a very long time. So if you want to follow that, you can also follow that. Again, I'm focused on results here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. And again, thank you for being a part of the long-term team, LTT here. And if you guys want to call me and talk to me directly, well, join me on these calls from Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. The link is down below. When you click it, you can schedule a free call today. See you guys tomorrow. Also, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, follow me right here at Tommy Bryson. And before I go, if you want another call like this one, here's another call right here. Click my face right here. And as always, peace.